Shortly after midnight on July 19, Ed Nugent called me over to the radar scope and laughingly said, "Here's a fleet of flying saucers for you."
The man center in this colorized composite image was Senior Air Traffic Controller Harry G. Barnes, who worked Washington National Airport at the time of the July 1952 Washington DC UFO Flap. His words, issued in print on this 30 July day, many decades ago, have been OCRed and fed to a text-to-speech processor for preservation and current education.
As it turns out now, Ed could very well have been stating an absolute fact. I am a senior air route traffic controller for the Civil Aeronautics Administration and was in charge of the Air Route Traffic Control Center that particular night at National Airport. Really, part of our job is to constantly monitor the skies around the nation's capital with the electronic eye of radar for purposes of controlling air traffic. The things which caused Ed to call me over to the scope were 7 pips clustered together irregularly in one corner. The 7 pips indicated that the objects were in the air over an area about 9 miles in diameter, 15 miles south-southwest of Washington. From all the information we had at hand, we knew that the spots were not aircraft, at least not friendly aircraft. We tracked the 7 pips for about 5 minutes and quickly determined that they were moving between 100 and 130 miles per hour while we could observe them. But their movements were completely radical compared to those of ordinary aircraft. They followed no set course, were not in any formation, and we only seemed to be able to track them for about 3 miles at a time. The individual pip would seem to disappear from the scope at intervals. Later, I realized that if these objects had made any sudden burst of extremely high speed, that would account for them disappearing from the scope temporarily. Our radar is only designed to track known types of aircraft or objects in the air at speeds known to all of us. I called the airport control tower to see what the radar showed there. The radar operator verified the same thing instantly. At this time, I notified the Air Force of our observation. Before notifying the Air Force of our findings, our technicians had carefully checked the equipment to make certain that it was operating perfectly. These are the important events of the next 6 hours. During the first hour, the objects had moved over all sectors of our scope. That meant that they had been over the restricted areas of Washington, including the White House and Capitol. Capital Airline pilot Captain S.C. Pierman, a veteran of 17 years of flying, was contacted. All of a sudden his voice came over the radio, which we could all hear, with the words, "There's one, and there it goes." He described it as just a bright light, moving faster than a shooting star at times. His subsequent descriptions of the movements of the objects coincided with the position of our pips at all times while in our range. During the next 14 minutes, he reported that he saw 6 such lights. He said they had no tail, no recognizable shape, and were just bright lights in a dark sky. Each sighting coincided with a pip we could see near his plane. When he reported that the light streaked off at high speed, it disappeared on our scope, for the apparent reason I cited. Some of the other pilots we contacted reported that they were unable to see the objects. I had the distinct feeling that some of them were just unwilling to discuss the subject over the radio. However, one other commercial pilot did flatly confirm seeing a light off his left wing which we saw as a pip on the scope. He was coming in for his landing, and the tower scope reported the same radar sighting. The light disappeared on our scope, and from his view about 4 miles before he touched his wheels down. Speaking personally, I would like to make these additional comments. Radar is strictly an electronics device. It has no imagination, it reports only what it sees. There is no other conclusion I can reach but that for 6 hours on the morning of the 20th of July, there were at least 10 unidentifiable objects moving above Washington. They were not ordinary aircraft. I could tell that by their movement on the scope,